Thanks, Molly. Amid these widespread protests is a singular call for justice for George Floyd and a number of other African Americans who have needlessly lost their lives. But in order to understand the present, it helps to look towards the past. In a 1967 speech, civil rights revolutionary Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear?" Over 50 years later, what is America still not hearing? With me now is Reverend Bernice A. King, the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the CEO of the King Center in Atlanta. Reverend King, you tweeted about people quoting your father, saying in part that many who quote him now and evoke him to deter justice today would likely hate and may already hate the authentic King. What is your understanding, looking at all of these protests across the country, about their objectives and how your father would feel about them today?
Look, I think the objectives of those who are truly protesting are directly connected to the issues that my father was addressing in the 50s and the 60s. The issue is there's still two Americas. There's America for Black people. There's America for white people. I would say there's America for white supremacist thinking and privilege, and there's America for everybody else. That is problematic. And so people who are protesting, legitimately protesting, are trying to raise that issue. We are tired and fed up with the talk. It's time to do the work of dismantling systemic racism, white supremacy, and creating another America, a true America.
And when you talk about that work, what does that work look like to you?
Well, I think we have to start where the hot button is right now. We've got to deal with police reform in this system. We got to deconstruct policing. It was always based in keeping Black people, Negroes, coloreds, and slaves in check. And so we've got to dismantle all of that and come up with something new. The 21st Century Task Force on Policing was a very good start. I'm encouraging the President of the United States, the Justice Department, to pick that back up because incredible work was done at that time. It deals with looking at hiring. It deals with this police brutality. In fact, H.R. 4408, we need to revive Eric Garner Excessive Use of Force Prevention Act. Because if we had had that in place, even if the officer did it, then he would have immediately been arrested.
You've said that the way for the Black community to get what they want is through nonviolence and peace. Where do you believe the community's focus should be in this moment?
You know, my father gave us some words back in '67 in his book, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos Community. He said the nettlesome task, and he's speaking of going forward, is to organize our strength into compelling power. Now's the time like never before to organize the strength of all of these individuals, all of us who are focused on bringing true equity and justice in this country, to work together to move our nation forward past this moment. It's not about the riots right now. We understand that. That is the language of the unheard. It's really about what do we do to correct these systems and these structures that have been in place for more than 400 years that continue to oppress people, that continue to treat people like they're almost animals. That's what we have to do the work of. And I'm calling on white people in this nation to start challenging other white people because that is a fundamental problem.
I spoke yesterday with Congressman John Lewis, another icon of the civil rights movement. When I asked him how he felt watching these images, going through this moment, he said he felt extremely sad that this was the conversation we were having 55 years later. And so I wonder to you, as you watch coast to coast these protests, as it is all set against the backdrop of a virus that has ravaged Black and brown communities, unemployment rates in those communities, do you think this moment is any different than moments that have come before it?
I do think it's different. I think it's different because there are circles of people now in the white community who are really seriously looking at the issue of white supremacy, looking in their hearts, looking in their souls, speaking some of the language, but recognizing that this has to change and it cannot go back to business as usual. This is a moment of opportunity. There's a cleansing going forward in this nation. People are crying out, and this cry is being heard all over this land and all over this world. And we will see fundamental change one way or another. My hope is that we don't continue to see continuing destruction, that we will begin to reconstruct our nation on a solid foundation of love and nonviolence and change and justice for all people.
Reverend King, thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.